In 1937, Walt Disney revolutionized filmmaking with the release of the first animated full-length motion picture, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, in which every frame was drawn by human hands. Today, animated films are increasingly close to reality. With so many tools and so much technology, it is possible to make a film full of texture, realistic movements, lights, and shadows, with only a computer and a team of talented professionals. But animated productions haven't always been automated and digital as it currently is. To understand how technology has changed the process to create animated films, first we must look at how they were produced a few years ago, when they were 100% handmade. The basic principle behind animation back then was like drawing pictures on a page and flipping them to make the picture move. It required a tremendous amount of manpower to produce an animated film. Skilled cartoonists first had to draw the characters and each of their movements in complete detail. Then each page of the drawings was photographed in sequence, one at a time. Next, it's time to run the drawings to the inking department, where artists trace every line of the drawings on sheets of transparent celluloids or cell with ink. The final stage for the cells comes next. The picture is moved to the Studio Paint laboratory, where they colored each sheet using painting formulas developed by expert chemists. The backgrounds for the pictures were painted in watercolor in a different department. After both were complete, the celluloids and backgrounds were photographed together by the master camera in Technicolor. More than 3 million paints and drawings were created by Walt Disney and its staff to complete this film. The world of animation once again changed forever in 1995 with the release of Pixar's Toy Story. This production had a staff of 27 animators who required 800,000 hours to generate and transform geometric-shaped images into 3D objects with texture. About 120 special computers were used in the process. However, computer animation predated Toy Story by quite a bit. If you were to guess in what year we had the first example of computerized animation, would you believe 1960? A 30-second vector animation of a car traveling down a planned highway at 110 kilometers an hour was created at the Swedish Royal Institute of Technology on the BESC computer. The short animation was broadcast on November 9, 1961 on national television. Throughout the years between this and Toy Story, computer animation was being used more and more in filmmaking. Here are a few important examples. In 1973, the point of view of Yul Brynner's gunslinger in the original Westworld was achieved with raster graphics. In 1977, the Death Star plans from Star Wars were created by 2 students at CalArts, again with vector graphics. Then, of course, we have the famous light cycle battle from 1982's Tron. Throughout the 80s and into the 90s, CGI has become more and more integral to movie effects. There are too many firsts to list, but here are a few. Terminator 2 featured the first realistic movements of a CGI character, as well as morphing effects. Jurassic Park showed us the first photorealistic CGI characters. Babylon 5 was the first TV series to use CGI as the primary method for visual effects. But there's one key moment in the history of 3D CGI that you probably haven't heard of. In 1972, Ed Catmull and Fred Parke created the world's first 3D rendered movie, an animated version of Ed's Left Hand. The pioneering techniques used here are the basis for the 3D rendering we still do today in video games, movies, and special effects. And if the name Ed Catmull sounds familiar, it's probably because he went on to found Pixar and is now the president of Walt Disney and Pixar Animation Studios. So, 58 years after Snow White, 35 years after the first computer animation, 23 years after Ed's animated hand, came Toy Story. Compared to Snow White, the process was more than a little different. The designers did a draft of the characters, then assembled the layout. Then animators manipulated digital polygons to fill in colors quickly and ran each frame into the process of overlaying for colors, shades, textures, and reflections. To achieve organic curves and human forms, 3-dimensional clay statues were carved, which were then scanned with a handheld 3-dimensional scanner, which translated the objects into data that the computer could interpret. When the model form was mapped into the computer, it could be seen from all angles. To make the public believe that the toys had emotions and free will, the characters were assigned hundreds of movements. Woody had over 700 animation controls, 212 for his face, including 58 just for the mouth. And after the lighting, the film was ready for final filling, where a digital printer, specially created, took the place of humans and combined all shapes, colors, and effects for each of 110,000 frames. Pixar and Disney have continued to push the envelope with realistic animation, each film more rich and lifelike than the last. One of the more recent landmarks in the world of CGI animation was Disney's Frozen. The snow falls in a very realistic way, and the cold air crystallizes everything it touches. The realistic snow was the result of a new style and collaboration between the special effects team and the creators of the film. The partnership between the two teams was intense, as never seen in any other Disney production. The team created a simulator called Matterhorn to lay the foundation of the effects in the blizzards, snow, landscapes, and characters. The Matterhorn software uses a complex algorithm to calculate the way individual snowflakes interact with each other in different conditions. The result was a photorealistic representation of snow in the world of Frozen. But the magic of the characters, which also incorporates snow and ice, was an effect that has nothing to do with the Matterhorn. This magic was created and implemented in a very different way, and began with simply pencil and paper. It was done through intensive manual work of the 2D animator. To make the transition from manpower to CG programming language, the Frozen team invited Michael Kaschalk, the great hero and reference in animated effects, to collaborate in the production. And by the way, Pixar has made their in-house rendering software free. RenderMan is used for texturing, lighting, and special effects to flesh out animations and make it more realistic. In addition to the Pixar library, it was used in movies such as Frozen, Captain America, and Guardians of the Galaxy. As the technology continues to progress, the question is, how long will it be before we have animated films indistinguishable from live action? We'll have to wait and see.